What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Warehouse Series and welcome to Video Breakdowns. We haven't done one of these in a long time because I said I would never do them again unless somebody gave me a video and said, go ahead, break down my video. Because when I do these videos, I'm here to nitpick for new selectors. So even though this is an experienced selector that we're going to be watching, every flaw is what I'm looking for. All right, everything that I would not do in the warehouse is what I'm looking for. And we have a lot of new selectors watching these videos. So that is why I like to point the stuff out. But saying right off the bat, everything I say on here, I know that you're a good selector, and we chat back and forth all the time. So you know that I need to critique your work, and honestly, guys, critique my work. I'm sure there's many things that I do wrong whenever I put my videos up. Someone do a video breakdown of one of my videos. That would be funny. So if somebody out there wants to do a video breakdown of one of my videos selecting in the warehouse. So with that being said, guys, you want to do all this, I really appreciate it. And this is going to be my last video that I post until the new year. It's going to be a busy 3 weeks for everybody in the warehouse. So there's no need to be putting videos up because they're probably not going to get a lot of views, a lot of watch time. People are going to be busy. So I'll see you guys after the new year, after this video is done. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so we're going to start right here now. He's already got 3 cases on, and you have seen me do this in my videos with when I'm starting an order with a lot of small cases. I just start throwing cases on. As you can see right there, I left that in there. I was going to delete it out, but there is horseplay in the warehouse, so I threw it on there. Do I want you doing it? Heck no, don't do that. But these guys are having fun, whatever. Backing out of the out. If you are a new selector, I highly recommend do not backing out of that out until you start getting used to that jack. Now, I have the volume shut off. I can't remember if he beat this horn or not, but guys, walking across your pallets, another thing that I'm going to point out, don't do it. All right. Do I do it? Yeah, of course I do it. But when you're a new selector, you have got to get used to the atmosphere. You got to get used to the equipment. You got to get used to everything. So let's move on to him building his pallet. And guys, you can see cases are coming together. Kept the long cases on the corner. And you're going to see that throughout his order, that even though he's just casually throwing cases all over the place, the corners, he's always worrying about his corners because he knows if he has a strong corner, I'm going to keep moving. Now, that box he put on the back corner there, that just proves to me that he knows what he's doing. He builds his pallets the same way every time. Took a minute to separate his pallets so his pallets aren't smack up against each other. Some people like that little gap, so you just have that clarity, of separation between the pallets. But keeping light cases together, and honestly, just moving at the same speed throughout the whole entire thing. Now, right here, sometimes grabbing what we grab, probably 7, 8 cases right there. I like what he does here. So we line up these cases to match this box, and you know what? We're going to throw the rest of them somewhere else. And they kept them towards the middle. They're long, skinny cases. I probably would have done the same thing. Think it towards the middle of my pallet on that cross and T I talk about. Little case, just throwing it in the middle of the thing. So the other thing I want to say is all the throwing of the cases. Now, he is in a freezer, so all of these freezer cases are solid cases. Because I asked him, why do you throw a lot of your product on its side? And he said that they're like bricks. Everything's frozen, and a lot of the cases on its side, it's just, he knows his warehouse, so he knows that he's going to have more cases lined up by putting them on their sides than keeping them flat. He said you get more into the build if you're having the cases upright. But he also did say that whenever I go to the dry goods part of the warehouse, I am not doing that. I'm keeping cases upright as much as possible. So these freezer cases, you could definitely get away with putting them on their sides a lot more. A lot of things like that case right there, you just put down, I'm thinking towards the middle. And once again, I'm going to point things out. I like how he did this right here. We got a little bit lower inside, and we're going to line that up. Now, this case right here, like I said, it probably wouldn't fit that way because it's too long, so I would have put it somewhere else. I like cases facing in. Even this right here. Now, I want to actually pause this for a second so I can talk about that. This case here was on the corner, and then he got a longer case. Immediately pushed this case out of the way and stuck his longer case there. Why? Because if you would have kept this, even if they were equal, if you would have kept the shorter case here and put the longer case on the inside, well, now from where this case ends and this case ends is going to be a gap like this on the outside of your pallet. Well, what are you going to put there? Nothing. So you're going to have a hole on the outside of your pallet. We want the hole on the inside. So I believe he moves his case later, but even though he does, it's just the fact that he's thinking, I want my gap on the inside. I hope that makes sense, because it was just so nonchalantly done, and that's exactly why he did it. He's filling out that perimeter of that pallet that I told you is so important to keep that perimeter of the pallet really strong. So we'll keep moving on here. What I wanted to say was, when he was starting all these cases, yeah, it's awesome to grab multiple cases, but grabbing too much, whenever he dropped them all over the place, you actually could cause more time selecting those cases than you were if maybe you just grab 4 and 4, is what I wanted to say on that. So if you have a lot of cases, you know, it's not necessary to grab them all at one time. Although he does grab multiples, which is awesome. The grabbing the multiples is going to help his friend out here. And keep moving here. Now, I put some edits in this because there was some dead time, so I put some edits. Guys, same cases, keep them together, put them on the corner, nice big boxes. See how we're forming our little corner up here? You know, we're building up. We didn't spread those white cases all over the place. We kept them all together. We're keeping the like cases together. There you go. Another case that's similar, you know, maybe a little bit longer, but the same height. It's going to come back here. Now that case there, I was hoping he was going to turn it long ways and part of the pallet that I don't like and then level that out, but he didn't. See, this is another reason why I'm going to stop it right here. This is another reason why I think it's so important to point cases in, because a lot of people do this. So that bottom box of mine would have been pointed in, and then this case would have been pointing in, and you would see how, now if the box was too long, I'd put something else there. But see how pointing cases in take care of these gaps, because when you build like this, all right, so even picture this in the middle part of the pallet. When you build like this, you get this gap. And now you got to sit there and try to find cases to fit in this gap, and then try to either equal this case or be a little lower than this case. It's not going to work. But if we would turn this case sideways, our inside is the same height because it's the same case. I hope that makes sense, but that is the perfect opportunity for me to show you why I do not like stacking cases like this. Always facing in unless I have 2, because if we had 2, our inside is going to be even with the outside. I hope that makes sense, but I'm glad that I'm watching this because I didn't realize that before, but perfect opportunity to show you guys that. Big long box, I would always stick it on a corner. It would be on top of those white boxes, or it would be on the other corner. Big long boxes, I think, corner right here. I love what he does. Guys, you see what he did right there? So these 2 cases were up here. You got a smaller case. Instead of sticking this smaller case on his corner, he's thinking, I need strong corners. All right? He so nonchalantly does it. He knows how to build. So he immediately took his, I want a nice wall. I guys, I post all this stuff. Strong corners. You want a nice, strong wall in the back of your pallet, and he did just that. You want the smaller cases facing in on the middle part of the pallet. Love it. Perfectly done. Okay, so right there, no, that case is fine, but see how we force ourselves to keep selecting in that way whenever you put a case that direction. It's so important to have the inside of your case, you know, the same. Now, I know this is, those cases really come high, and you seem like a shorter selector, and I'll tell you what, but all these pallets stripped down, when I first started at my warehouse, I remember back in the day, everybody used to, probably 90% of the selectors selected layer by layer, and it made selecting so much easier. You didn't have to worry about all these cases falling over on you, and it was really nice when people actually selected like they should have. So right here, we're just moving on to the next part. Flap opened up, no big deal. Filling in his gap in the middle, keeping those same boxes together. The guys, just the calm moving. This is honestly, this is how I selected in my video. And I guarantee he's making his times. I guarantee it. So we're moving up. See how we're having trouble filling in that gap? But if cases were facing in, we would have filled in that gap a lot better. It definitely. Keeping the same boxes together, he's going to fill perfect. I do that all the time too, guys. Stick one up and lay one flat if you can. Now right here, he's selected from the top on this one. We got 6 cases. Got to get him onto his pallet, and then he start moving them around, trying to fill in that hole now. Getting things worked out. Turn one on its side. Like I said, guys, I guess, yeah, I don't select in the freezer. But with Jeremy and Ham and these guys that select in the freezer, cases on their sides is a heck of a lot better for doing this, because, and you get a lot of bigger boxes. When you get bigger boxes, you get a lot of smaller gaps that you have to try to fill in. So, you know, you got to turn some of these cases sideways. And with the cases being frozen, like he said, they're like bricks. You know, they're not going to damage the product. Just casually walking, you know, grabbing multiples almost every time, throw it on the same side of the pallet that he's on. You don't see him walking from one side of the pallet to the other. Not messing with his cases. Once those cases are down, they're down. All right. I mean, just, you're not moving them around, because fumbling around with cases on your pallet is one of the biggest time killers I see new selectors do. Now, I tell people on here that I think you should touch your cases multiple times for the first like 3-4 weeks until you establish your system. And then after you establish your system, then it's time to start selecting like this, where you're selecting probably 95 of these percent of these cases have not been touched more than once. Okay, so we got the slip sheet coming here. What do you guys think? No, I disagree with it. I disagree with it for the reason that we don't have a multiple layer. I don't like it. Right here, guys, this happens. All right, so now he's looking at his pallet while he's grabbing cases from the second level. Just make sure you're watching what you're doing. All right, new selectors, make sure you're watching what you're doing when you're grabbing your product, so you're not getting cracked in the head by a case falling down. I don't like the slip sheet because we're not finished with our layer yet. If we were finished with our layer, it'd be a whole different story, because this is where the false sense of security comes from, that slip sheet. Because he will start throwing cases on their hair, but it's shorter cases, it's smaller cases, and I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of the placement of the slip sheet. Okay, guys, 2 same boxes, keep them together, you know, just I can't say it enough. Just look at the casual movement. We're not running. We're not worried about anything. And we're building this, guys, what are we on? And I paused it a couple times. I can't see the time on this, but you know, we're not even how far into this, and he's already got up, you know, most of his order completed. But watching him throw is very good, because it's just like, this is how people do it. All right, nice skinny case. He thinks middle. That's exactly where I would have put it. That's the part of the cross I talk about. There's not too many small cases on this. He's got another small case. He's going to look to even out his corner right here, and then it's not going to work. So he moves it. There's not too much more here. I actually stopped it because, you know, I think we've seen enough. I edited a lot of this out, so we're going to be coming to the end right here. He's finishing off with these cases. And honestly, the end of the video, you can't really see the end product anyhow. So I ended up just stopping it right, I think right here. Yeah. All right, guys. So some of the things I wanted to go over that I want you to pay attention to. So if you guys want to go back and watch this video again, same side selecting. Literally every single case that he threw was on the side of the pallet, or the side of the out he was on. So he turned from this side, put it right on that side. You didn't see him walking around his jack, putting a case down, walking back around. The one time that I remember that I seen him, he was on the side that he was selecting from, and then he noticed that the other side of the pallet is where this case needs to be. What do you do? Just toss it over there, and when I walk around, I'll grab it at a later time. I do that all the time. If I see something that's going to work on the other side, just throw it towards the middle of the pallet. Then when you walk around, you can grab that. Guys, grabbing multiples. Every time he needed multiple cases, he grabbed multiples, saving so much time. Now, I told you the one time I disagreed with it is when he grabbed like 8 of something, and then you get to the pallet and it just falls all over the place. And now you tend to spend a little bit more time than it would have took you to just grab 4 and 4. So just remember, don't grab too many cases at one time. I've seen people thinking they're muscle men trying to grab like 5 grapes, and then they trip over a piece of chipboard or band or something, and they go flying and the grapes go everywhere. Guys, know your limits. All right, 1 or 2 grapes at a time, 4 or 5 of these smaller cases at a time, maybe not any more than that. The other thing I want to, corners, constantly thinking of corners, even though that he was not, you know, trying to build the most prettiest pallet. And I love this because it just shows you that you can move through here, build a very good pallet, and make your times with no problem with walking through here once you establish that system. But the corners were something he was always thinking about. The touch once, I think only a few times that he touched the case multiple times. But like I said before, guys, during the video, when you're new, you should be touching those cases as many times as you possibly can until you start establishing a system. And then this is how you throw once you establish that system. And then cases together. Something I preach on this channel all the time. When you have 2 of the same case, keep them together. If you possibly can keep them together, keep them together. If your palette allows it. The other thing I want to point out, some of the stuff that, these were the stuff that he did great, he did right. The one thing I was showing you that I disagreed with is I like my cases pointing in. And he proved a couple times on there that pointing those cases in give you stronger pallets and stronger corners. And then the other one was the placement of the slip sheet. That slip sheet, if I was going to use it, I would wait until I actually get at least my corner. I would have had that corner done, and then I could fill in the gaps. The smaller cases could go in the gaps, but I would at least want a corner that is somewhat level to the rest of my layer. All right, guys, so that's the end of this video. Like I said, this is the last video until the new year. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Ham, thank you for letting me do a breakdown on your video. And that's it, guys. I'll see you next time. Have a great day, and have a happy new year, and have a good Christmas.